Bon dia, welcome to Exploring Timor-Leste, the podcast that talks about Southeast Asia's best kept travel secret. I'm your host Jonty, and I'll share first-hand insights, expert interviews and practical travel tips. Whether you're a traveller, a culture lover or just curious about places rarely covered in the mainstream, you're in the right place. Let's explore Timor-Leste. Today's episode is one of the largest and least populated municipalities in Timor-Leste. This is Manatuto. So Manatuto lies between Dili and Balcao, so it's to the east of Dili, and a lot of people will travel the coastal road. Far fewer people will venture inland into Manatuto. There's not a lot of roads, but it is quite a varied and interesting municipality to visit. And anybody who's visiting Balcao or heading out to Jacko Island and Lautem will head through Manatuto. And I'd recommend that they do spend a little bit of time at least exploring Manatuto town and some of the sites along the coastal road, which is one of the best roads in the country. It's relatively recently built and very few potholes in comparison with other parts of the country. One of the best known sites along that coastal road is Dollar Beach. This was a popular spot with the UN peacekeepers during the early 2000s. Locals would charge them $1 to access the beach, which is how it got the name. Entry is now free, but unfortunately the site is generally closed from the road. There's quite a large perimeter wall, and there's these towers that look a bit like guard towers but are actually kind of scenic spots. So if you can find a local, they may be able to open the gate and let you in, but more likely you may have to access it from walking along the coast from either end, which is a bit of a shame. The facilities are a bit run down. Obviously some money was spent on it at some point in the past, but maintenance is not a strength in Timor. There is good snorkeling there though, and it is a bit of a landmark as you're driving along and worth a quick stop to take a look at one of the more kind of unusual beach setups that I've seen. Now, when you're heading along the road from Dili to Balcao, probably the most scenic section is Subaun, which is also known as Snake Road. And this is where the road wiggles like a snake around the side of the hillside. It's very impressive looking back onto it. And there are some quite prominent headlands that stick out. And it's probably the only road in Timor I found that actually had an area to the side where you could pull over and take photos and have a look. Generally, you just have to pull over to the side of the road. But here there's actually a space at the top of the saddle, which offers some fantastic views. Now, just before you get to the Snake Road, if you're heading from Dili, take a look out on your left for a Jacko-class patrol vessel. This is one of the vessels in the Timorese Navy. Certainly as of early 2025, it was being refitted there. It may be there for some time. It's not very obvious when you're driving from Dili to Balcao, but when you're driving the opposite direction, you can't miss it, and that's just quite a cool thing to look out for by the side of the road. So that was just before Snake Road. Just after Snake Road, there's a small roadside shrine dedicated to St. Anthony, fed with natural spring water, which is a popular stopping point. There's quite a few places to get food and supplies around that area. That's also the way you want to start if you want to hike up towards Mount Curry, which is a fantastic, if reasonably challenging, day hike. I'd recommend that you get a guide to help you on the way up, because it's not entirely obvious where to go, but that offers some incredible views if you're into hiking. Now, the main town in Manatuto is called Manatuto. It's slightly off the main road, so if you're just driving through to Balcao, you could easily miss it. I would strongly recommend that you take a short detour and spend an hour or two exploring the town. There's actually quite a few things worth seeing. Now, there are two hills in Manatuto. The most popular one has a statue of St. Antonio, and that's to the east of town. The road up to that is rough but manageable, and that is a popular place for people to go and pray, and it also offers some excellent views of the surrounding area. But my preference is the other hill, which is more to the west, and that is topped by a former Portuguese colonial administrator's house, which is completely run down, it's fallen apart, it's basically ruins. It's quite atmospheric ruins though, and it has some incredible views. And just around the corner from it is a man-made cave shrine with a statue of the Virgin Mary. Now, the road up to there, I'm not sure you'd do it in the car very easily, but on a motorbike it is manageable. It's a pretty challenging bit of road, but it's worth it for the fantastic views. Now, in Manatuto town itself, there's a couple of plazas and memorials to Timorese heroes from the Indonesian occupation era. And then the sizable St. Anthony Church lies close to the waterfront. The original church was built in 1880, but the current one was renovated in 2009. And I think it needs a bit more renovation now, but it is an interesting church to visit. And if you look around the outside of the church, there are 14 stations of the cross in the grounds, along with another shrine to the Virgin Mary. So there's a few things to see in Manatuto town itself. When you're heading east out of Manatuto, there are a couple of salt fields. These are the largest salt fields in the country. And depending on what time of year you come, if it's during the wet season, they may be filled up with water. If it's in the dry season, they might be dry. There's a happy medium where you get these beautiful white and red coloured kind of pools of water, depending on what time of year you visit. Probably the best known site in Manatuto is the Laleia Church, which is often proclaimed as one of the most beautiful churches in Timor-Leste. This is just a short detour off the main road. Just make sure you turn left as you head through town. This is a Portuguese designed church built in 1933. It's this pastel pink colour on the outside. It's very attractive. And then the interior is very colourful with green and yellow striped ceiling. It is definitely one of the nicer churches I've visited in the country. Now, for most people, that's what you're going to see in Manatuto, is you're going to go along the coastal road, and those are the main sites to visit. For those who are a bit more adventurous and have got a suitable four-wheel drive vehicle or are comfortable on a motorbike, you can head inland. The main towns inland is Luklaba, is in beautiful surroundings, lots of mountainous hills around. It's got a quite impressive church and some more remains from the Portuguese era as well. It's a bit out the way, but it's quite an interesting place to visit. I did it as part of a big hike in that region. This is one of the few places that I didn't visit in Timor-Leste, but if you do head from Manatuto inland, quite a way inland, you get to Atara. So this is one of the most important sacred sites within Timor-Leste. So in the early 20th century, the Virgin Mary appeared to several women near a large banyan tree on the hills. This is near Sobadia. And as a result, a shrine, which was consecrated as a national shrine in 2004, a church, a convent, a college and a town were built during Portuguese times. Every October, hundreds of people travel on pilgrimage from around the country to visit the shrine. And although the vision of the Virgin Mary is not officially endorsed by the Catholic Church, its significance to the people of Timor-Leste was acknowledged by Pope John Paul II in May 2002 in his message on the occasion of the Declaration of Independence. This is when Timor-Leste became an independent country, and he made reference to it in his blessing of the country. So the site is at least an hour and a half's drive south of Manatuto. It'll be a beautiful drive inland, definitely one for the dry season. Also in Manatuto, there are a number of excellent snorkeling sites. I've already mentioned Dollar Beach. There's a site called K41, which is 41 kilometres east of Dili, and that is a well-known site for snorkeling and diving. And there's also Bob's Rock, which is just down the road from K41. I would note that once you start getting further east from Manatuto towards Balcao, the risks of crocodiles do increase significantly, so it's best to stay closer to the Dili end. There are a number of dive companies in Dili that will offer day trips out to go diving along those sites, and they're all shore dives, so you don't need a boat. They will provide transport and take you from Dili. You can walk in off the shore, go for some great diving, and then come back. So that's a really good way of exploring the coast of Manatuto. In terms of transport, this is probably one of the better connected parts of the country because the road is excellent, and you can get public buses out to Balcao, which cost $5 or less, and you can get off the bus. The trouble with the buses is they all tend to leave about the same time and return at the same time, so you need to get to your destination at the end of the day. If you get off early, the chance of getting another bus to continue the journey might be a bit challenging depending on the time of day. So that's giving you a bit of a flavour for Manatuto. Thank you so much for listening to Exploring Timor-Leste. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a rating or a review. It really helps more people discover the show. If you have any questions or feedback, I'd love to hear from you. Drop me an email at exploringtimorleste@gmail.com. Until next time, obrigado ho adeus.